Because what started to become very clear was people would often come in with one problem and yet have another problem go away. And I didn't always know about it in the beginning. For example, one woman drove 3,000 miles across the United States from one coast to the other where I was because she was having terrible pain on one side of her face for years and years and years. Anytime she had had a problem called, I can't remember what it's called, but it comes back to me, I'll tell you. And anyway, it left her with nerve damage on one side of her face. So anytime a breeze happened, or a window or a door opened or closed too quickly, it hurt her a great deal. So she came for healing for that. And she was probably, I'm going to guess, 48, give or take. I did 2 sessions with her. That did not go away. Looking at it that way, I would put her into one of the 30% of the people who I thought at the time didn't have healing. But then she told me on the second day, she said it didn't go away, and I had 2 healing sessions. She said, but what she hadn't told me was that when she was a really young girl, like 7, 8, 9, something like that, she had had a severe infection and high temperature, lost the hearing in one of her ears. Her hearing came back. Now, she didn't come in with the conscious intention of regaining her hearing. It was part of her life. She was told it would never come back. She was told her hearing would never come back, so she wasn't expecting something like that to happen. So she didn't tell me about her hearing problem. If she hadn't told me that the hearing came back, I would have thought, well, she didn't have a healing. But she did have a healing. If you're fortunate, which is not a popular spiritual word, they like to use synchronicity, but the word synchronicity does not work here. If you're fortunate, your healing will come in the form that you're anticipating, that you want. If you're truly, truly fortunate, your healing will come in another form, one that the universe has designed specifically for you, we hadn't even thought of yet. In other words, it appears over the years, I can see quite clearly that, in my opinion, everyone does have a healing. Very many people have the healing they come in expecting, and others have healings way beyond that they haven't even thought of.
Is it also about the DNA?
Mm-hmm.
It's changing the DNA, but is it also that a lot of people say we are going to a bigger, greater frequency, so our DNA has to change to get on that frequency.
You know, when people talk about how and why, it tends to limit their understanding. How and why are very disempowering. Excuse me, again. How and why are very disempowering questions, because then we define that this is exactly how it works, and this is the reason that will make it work. And then we can't see beyond that. We don't know exactly how something works or exactly why it works. It is definitely interesting to explore potential and observe possibilities. Observe how it works and look at, there could be this interaction and that interaction, but not a sign that this is the way it works, because then we say this is the way it doesn't work. Because when we say that we know the answer, we stop learning right there on the spot. We say this is right, so this is wrong, this is right, so this is wrong. But when we're willing to say, I don't know, we open the door of all possibilities. We begin to see more. We can say, I don't know, but I can see this possibility over there, or this one or this one. If I can bring any of these several possibilities together, then I get what at first seems to be a better answer, except it's not really an answer at all. It's building blocks so that we can ask better questions, because really our growth comes in the questioning. Where philosophy is about the questioning, we are here for the learning process of the questioning and the exploration. We're all going to know all the answers all too soon, but here in our lifetime, our growth comes from the questioning. And yes, we are seeing changes in the DNA. I don't want to say exactly why, because we don't really know exactly why. And I think some of our observations actually help us expand even further. For instance, yes, some people are very clinical in their approach. Some researchers from the University of Arizona have done studies on just why reconnective healing so dramatically changes the DNA so differently than energy healing techniques, and even techniques that are supposed to or designed to change DNA don't get anywhere near this. We've had confirming and even more expansive research by a researcher in New York who's very highly respected and sought after by, of all things, not just laboratories but cosmetic companies, because he's been able to through his research and understanding what DNA even add to what cosmetics are able to bring about. So it's on many different levels. Really, let's think of it this way. Reconnective healing seems to be reconnecting or restructuring, among other things, strands of our DNA. What role could that play in things? What do we discover that happens with people who experience reconnective healing? The first thing is that often they come out of their sessions saying, oh my God, I just had this experience where I was somewhere. I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't awake. I wasn't asleep. I was somewhere much more real. I saw this. I felt this. I smelled this. Things that it was just an amazing experience. And they recognize it and acknowledge it as being a huge, multi-dimensional, clear, very clear awareness and existence. How do computers work? You have your little computer, and it's run by a software program, so you get certain information out of the computer, and you access that internet field out there somewhere. Upgrade the software in the computer, you get better information from the computer and better information to that internet field out there somewhere. How do our brains work? Our brains don't work the way we were taught. We were shown the models of the brains with the little circles, remember, drawn, and this is speech, and this is memory, and this is learning, and this is this, and this is that. We now know that's not true, that's not accurate. We know from the work from Dr. Carl Pribram and others that the information in our brains, it's diffused throughout our brains, and it's not just within the brain, but we access it from the field, what used to be called the etheric field, but that upset scientists that seemingly otherwise intelligent adults in the late 1800s were believing in an invisible field, so science, of course, disproved the etheric field, and the sucker came back in the early 1920s or so. So science had to move forward and disprove it a second time. That's why I call it the field that wouldn't die. Science tried to disprove it twice, came back again, and today we're using it in science. So they've changed the name of it so as not to be embarrassed from the history of how they disproved it supposedly twice. From the etheric field, they now call it zero-point field, but of course everyone really, we just call it the field, and everyone winks, And we are not just in this field, we are this field. So we're constantly receiving information from it, we're constantly playing with it. Children, you put children on a long bus ride, one child falls asleep, another one stares at the child until they wake up. They're in that field. When we think of a friend we haven't heard from in 3 years, and 3 minutes later the phone rings, and a friend, we're accessing this field. So it's like there's all this information we're constantly immersed with and accessing, and yet people who are psychics, people who are geniuses, people who are healers,